Hello friends, and welcome to another episode of Phantom Curiosities. Today's episode is about one of the most talked about and still famous Hollywood actresses, Marilyn Monroe. She was a pop culture, the sexiest American icon back in the day, and she had a very tragic story behind her death. And not only that, but she is claimed to have still haunt grounds around her home in the Hollywood area. But let's dive a little bit into Marilyn Monroe's life, her final days, and her life after death. On the outside, she was Hollywood's ultimate blonde bombshell, but on the inside, the model turned actress faced demons that led to her ultimate death at 36 years old. Because in some ways, it seemed in August 1962, Marilyn Monroe was trying to pull her life together because she had just bought her first home in California's Brentwood neighborhood for only $75,000. She was on the cover of Life magazine, and she had just been rehired on the film Something's Got to Give. But in other ways, it seems like the bleakest of times for the model turned Hollywood star. She had divorced her third husband, playwright Arthur Miller, the year prior. There were rumors about an alleged affair between her and President John F. Kennedy. But on August 5th, 1962, Marilyn Monroe was found deceased in her home at 12305 5th Helena Drive. But she was lying face down without any clothes on, just a phone receiver in her hand. By her side was an empty pill bottle that had held 50 capsules of Nembutal, a drug often used as a sleeping aid. The shocking, tragic ending of Marilyn Monroe's rise to glory from an abandoned childhood to a movie star royalty was the real-life Cinderella story. Her death at age 36 was ruled probably a suicide, but theories are still around about what may have actually led to her passing in her final days. Despite being known as one of the sexiest symbols in pop culture history, Marilyn's personal life was plagued with drama. She was born the name Norma Jean Mortensen on June 1st in 1926. In Los Angeles, Monroe was shuffled between orphanages and foster homes throughout her whole childhood. She was only 16 years old when she married her first husband, James Daughtry, which lasted from 1942 to 1946. She later married the baseball legend Joe DiMaggio in 1954, and her husband Miller from 1956 to 1961. It was her marriage to Miller that lasted the longest. During that period, she had suffered several miscarriages and at times blamed herself for her alcohol and drug use. Her substance abuse and creative differences while the couple worked together on the 1961 film The Misfits added to her stress. Although they finished the film, Marilyn chose the date January 20th, 1961 to divorce her husband in hopes of burying the news in the wake of the presidential inauguration of JFK, who ironically she was soon linked to. Just over a year later, in March of 1962, Marilyn reportedly met John F. Kennedy at a Palm Springs party at Bing Crosby's home. Before their famed public appearance at a Democratic fundraiser on May 19, 1962, where Marilyn sang her sultry rendition of Happy Birthday, Mr. President. in her breathy voice, wearing a dress made by designer Jean Louise that gave the illusion she was naked. JFK responded to the performance saying, "I can now retire from politics after having had Happy Birthday sung to me in such a sweet and wholesome way." But little did the world realize that less than 3 months later, Marilyn would no longer be around. While experts argued about the amount of impact the divorce from Miller and rumored JFK affair had on Marilyn's state of mind, her ups and downs with lovers, which also included romances with Marlon Brando, Frank Sinatra, and the director Elia Kazan, were a tumultuous factor throughout her life. After a string of box office disappointments with 1960's Let's Make Love and the 1961's Misfits film, Marilyn had started to feel the effects of her waning stardom. To add to that, the way she handled herself on the set of the 1962's Something's Gotta Give caused her to get fired on June 8, 1962 by 20th Century Fox Studios. The movie said that her consistent delays had cost production $2 million, and they sued her for $500,000. "Management is what's wrong with the business," Monroe said, according to her New York Times interview. "To blame the troubles on Hollywood stars," she said, "is really stupid. These executives, she thinks, should not knock their assets around." Unfortunately, this public battle she had with the studios had tarnished her reputation. But Marilyn knew what she had to do and was preparing to turn things around. She had landed the cover of one of the most prestigious magazines, Life and Paris Match, and negotiated with the studios to be hired back on Something's Gotta Give, heading back to work that very Monday. She also reportedly was making plans to give a press conference in the coming days. While it appears she pulled all her ducks in a row, she was positioned for a comeback, and the impacts of the situation may still have a lasting effect on her mindset. Marilyn's troubled upbringing mixed with the pressures of fame haunted her throughout her whole life. Some of her most famous quotes alluded to the demons that swirled in her mind. Being a sex symbol is a heavy load to carry, especially when one is tired, hurt, and bewildered. Hollywood is a place where they'll pay you $1,000 for a kiss and 50 cents for your soul. And if I close my eyes and think of Hollywood, all I see is one big varicose vein. Her birth mother had spent much of her life in psychiatric clinics, and Marilyn was determined not to follow her fate. In 1961, she checked into Payne Whitney's psychiatric clinic, but was even further traumatized to find herself locked in a padded cell. At the time of her death, she was seeking help from a psychiatrist, Dr. Ralph Greenson. In fact, around 5:15 p.m. on Saturday before her death, she had talked to Greenson for about an hour on the phone and was told to go for a ride. When she complained she could not sleep, police reported, according to her 1962 Los Angeles Times obituary, he thought she was headed to the beach for some fresh air. But the empty pill bottle next to her was a form of prescription that had just been given to her for a few days prior, and she was supposed to take one per night. Also found on the bedstand were another 12 to 15 medicine bottles. Her housekeeper, Eunice Murray, had seen Marilyn head to her bedroom at about 8 p.m. on Sunday night, the night she was believed to have died. Around 3:25 a.m. is when she noticed Marilyn's light was still on and went to check on her, but didn't hear any responses. She called her Dr. Greenson, who came over and broke the window to find Marilyn's dead body. While both conspiracy and logical theories have been thrown out into the public realm, the truth behind Marilyn Monroe's death will forever be a mystery. The last 6 months of her life will soon come to the screen in the series tentatively titled The Last Days of Marilyn Monroe, inspired by Keith Badman's 2010 book, The Final Years of Marilyn Monroe. And Judy Garland actually had a shocking revelation about Marilyn Monroe, saying that Marilyn actually asked her for help at one point. Because Judy Garland and Marilyn Monroe were two of the biggest superstars of their time. They were friends and confidants who shared a haunting bond. This was according to a new book by Garland's third husband, Sid 'L.F. "Judy and I," 'L.F. said, in his unfinished memoir before his death in 2005, reveals new details about their friendship and the shocking revelation that Marilyn had once asked Garland for help before she died from that accidental drug overdose in 1962. According to E.L.F., Marilyn's death was especially troubling to Judy since Marilyn had been one of Judy's telephone pals during her years of insomnia. In an article, Judy Garland describes a Hollywood party one evening in which Marilyn followed her from room to room saying, "I don't want to get far away from you," she said. "I'm scared." Judy Garland told her, "We're all scared. I'm scared too." Marilyn says, "If we could just talk," she said, "I know you'd understand." Judy said, "Maybe I would if you're scared. Call me and come on over. We'll talk about it." But they never did. As Judy Garland wrote, that beautiful girl was frightened of loneliness. The same thing I'd been afraid of. And like me, she was just trying to do her job. Garnish some delightful whipped cream onto someone's lives, but Marilyn and I never got a chance to talk. I had to leave for England and I never saw that sweet dear girl again. I wish I had been able to talk to her the night she died. Judy doesn't think Marilyn really meant to harm herself. In an eerie foreshadowing of her own death from an accidental drug overdose. It was partially, she thinks, because she had too many pills available, then was deserted by her friends. You shouldn't be told you're completely irresponsible and be left alone with too much medication. It's too easy to forget. You take a couple of sleeping pills and you wake up 20 minutes and forget you've taken them. So you take a couple more and the next thing you know, you've taken way too many. In E.L.F.'s memoir, it also describes how Marilyn would visit their home and play with their young children. She'd sit by the fire, not talking much, had a quiet presence. Marilyn was sweet and very unhappy. She'd chat with Judy and play with the children, hang out. She was separated from one of her husbands, whom she complained was a nice person but said didn't know how to make love to a woman. She hoped this pattern would change when they married. She was frustrated and disappointed. Now 61 years old, their son Joey, E.L.F, said he has sweet memories of Marilyn Monroe, who he remembers would sport jeans and eyeglasses for her casual visits. She was very kind and she looked like a really pretty school teacher to him. And that's what he was thinking to himself. This can't be like one of those huge sex symbols. My sister had just explained to me who she was before she walked in. My dad and mom were talking to her about movies and things and directors and people that I couldn't figure out. She came over a second time and she did the same thing and she only stayed for 20 or 25 minutes. The next following day, when I turn on the TV, I see Marilyn Monroe singing for President Kennedy, "Happy Birthday." I put it together though. I thought, oh, that's right, now I get it. But they say Marilyn Monroe still lived a life past her death. Because Hollywood has produced tons of icons over the years, and it's safe to say that Marilyn Monroe is one of the most recognizable figures of them from the silver screen. Even today, every time you take a trip to Hollywood, you could run into one of Marilyn Monroe's impersonators. She symbolizes the beauty and sex appeal only reserved for movie stars. She made dozens of films between the 50s and 60s, always playing the role of the blonde bombshell. Though she was adored by millions of fans, Marilyn's life off-screen was less ideal, as we have talked about. How she died may be up for debate, but most people agree that she left us too young. However, some people say she's never left us at all. Marilyn Monroe's ghost has been seen all around town since her death. Not everyone believes in ghosts, but it's strange that so many people have reportedly seen her spirit. Marilyn Monroe's home in Brentwood, California was where the beauty passed away. Her ghost has been spotted all over the property, from the pool to the garage. There are even a couple of eerie photos that seem to capture a ghost-like figure wandering through the estate. In the Roosevelt Hotel in Hollywood, there have also been reportings and sightings of Marilyn Monroe's spirit, mainly in the suite she frequented, room 1200. Her ghost often would shock people by appearing in a full-length mirror, and it got so bad that they moved the mirror from the suite to the hallway in an attempt to not lose customers. Some guests wouldn't be that upset to spend the night with her ghost. At least they can say they spent the night with Marilyn Monroe. At the Hippodrome in the Santa Monica Pier, there's another spot rumored to be haunted by Marilyn Monroe. She spent some time there during a photo shoot on the beach and would occasionally visit the carousel in disguise to watch the families enjoy their day. Legends say that if you visit the Hippodrome late at night and watch the mirrors on the carousel, you can catch a glimpse of Marilyn Monroe sitting on her favorite bench near the gift stand. There are a lot of reports of Marilyn showing up in mirrors. Maybe she was so pretty the mirrors can't forget her image. It's often joked that Marilyn Monroe is the hardest working ghost in show business because her spirit seems to be everywhere. Even her star on the Walk of Fame has had reports of a mysterious pink mist hovering over it. It's no wonder that she's even been caught on film a few times. If there's a ghost that isn't camera shy, that ghost would definitely be Marilyn Monroe. And that is the tale of the sad American beauty, Marilyn Monroe. I just can't get over how much of a Cinderella story she had, but how cruel her life was. She just seems so lonely, and I know that doesn't give anyone rights to have affairs or anything like that, but the card she was dealt, and she thought she made it in life. And it was just such a dark scene after she made it. It just makes me so incredibly sad, but I hope you enjoyed today's video of me with Marilyn Monroe and her afterlife and hauntings. You know how much I love ghost stories and history. I hope she's remembered for the good parts and not just her beauty. I loved hearing about the children and how they saw her as a cute school teacher look. And she would come visit Judy Garland. That just warms my heart. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Phantom Curiosities. Let me know what you would love to see on this series. It will be up here every month, I hope. I'm working so hard on these videos for y'all. I'm so excited. And I will see you guys in the next video. Subscribe to see every Monday and Friday we do videos here. Not just this series, but beauty makeups and effects videos. So I will see you then. Sweet dreams. Good night. Bye.